It's all about that inner work, developing the love for yourself and finding who you are.
Yeah.
Because once you start to find who you are, then you start to develop the person you're supposed to be and be a better person for other people, and they respond differently to you.
Marci Hopkins, thanks for joining me on Knockin Doorz Down.
So excited to be here. Thank you.
Oh, I'm excited to talk to you. Just to let people know, your folks reached out the exact time I was looking to talk to you. So it was like kismet. We had to get a conversation in.
Absolutely. We put it out there and we made it happen.
So as someone that does a lot of their life, or at least has a big public persona, as far as, your TV work, you've been doing it for quite a long time, such a talented broadcaster. Were you trepidatious about putting out the book?
I was not, because I've gone through a lot of healing, and writing my book actually helped me to heal even more so. And it's very interesting. I can talk about my story and all of the things that have happened. And it's kind of like, that's something that happened to me. And it doesn't define who I am today. And I tell it with only the purpose to never have anyone feel sorry for me or judge me. It's just about really helping others to know that healing is possible. There's so much hope out there, and a beautiful life is possible and waiting for you if you do the work, and hopefully we can connect somewhere within my book.
I love the way you laid out the book. You laid it out in 5 parts, and part 1, chaos.
Yeah.
That's most of it. I mean, I don't know about you, more long-term sobriety than me, but through this work here on the podcast, the nonprofit work I do, group stuff, I have yet to find anyone, especially alcoholics, that there isn't some sort of childhood trauma chaos that was going on in the house. And how do you kind of reflect on what occurred, if you can give a little insight on Marci's childhood?
Well, there's a lot of chaos. Listen, there was a lot of instability with my mother. The first 6 years of my life, she had me at a very young age. And my father was not involved after the first year of my life. And it was hard, but I just remember that I was just so full of love. I just loved everyone so much. And I just wanted to just hold my family all of the time. And then things started unraveling, and abuse started from my mom's boyfriends. And I moved into my grandparents, and there was, there was a lot of chaos also that happened within my grandparents' house with my grandfather and his temper. And there was a lot of drinking there also, but it was the most stable upbringing that I could have had. And my grandmother was just my angel. And she instilled in me a lot of values and morals and just being a good woman. Yeah. I lost that along the way, but I found it again. And I'm thankful for them giving me the base of my 6 to 12, 6 to 12 years I was with them. So meaning 6 years old to 12 years old. Yeah.
I had someone reach out to me. They were asking about that reconciliation of childhood. How did you start to kind of see it as your advantage? And I was trying to explain to them, but I'm a terrible typer. It's like, hey, let's do a FaceTime or something, talk this out. But I'm still kind of going through that process of the reconciliation of childhood and looking at, this, it created who I am. Love yourself at every point.
Yeah.
What kind of work did you do for yourself to find that within?
Well, I will tell you, the 12-step program did miracles for me. Yeah. I really worked those steps, and it was just when I started recognizing my role in things, and beginning to recognize who Marci is, finding myself again, finding the self-love that I had lost, moving into a place of gratitude, and just really self-love that I had lost and it all started there. And then my connection to the divine. And so once I started, changing and really, I feel rewiring my brain and healing at a DNA level, starting to release the trauma within at my cellular level.
Yeah.
I was able to start to do inner child work. And this was through healing meditations. I went to a place called Canyon Ranch in Arizona. And this was a phenomenal experience because I did a lot of self-help meditations, and one was connecting to my inner child. And so I literally was able within this meditation to find the younger Marci, grab her and sit on a horse and run on the beach and just tell her it's all going to be okay. And I'm here with you and I love you. And it just really, that's where the process started, because it's all about that inner work, developing the love for yourself and finding who you are.
Yeah.
Because once you start to find who you are, then you start to develop the person you're supposed to be and be a better person for other people, and they respond differently to you.
Thank you. Do you find through that work, and I got a funny story how I kind of started to love the little me. So Jean-Claude Van Damme had a show on Amazon called Jean-Claude Van Johnson. And so his character's very abused. It plays off of his acting persona, but the last episode, he has a vision of hugging his younger self, and his little child tells him, I love you. And boy, Marci, pardon the language, the fucking tears rolled. And like, I finally got it to start that work. But how did you start to develop then the boundaries for yourself and protecting that inner child? Because that's a tough thing to do. And I'm still in that process. So I'm picking your brain to know what you did and maybe implement it.
Well, it's really important. So for instance, as I started this work and really diving into it, my husband was extremely supportive, and he started to evolve and grow with me. And I found my voice and was able to communicate my feelings, because it's really hard if you can't communicate, because if you're not communicating what your needs are and what you're going through, and creating, like I said, those boundaries. And boundaries aren't shutting people out. It's just, saying, no, that doesn't work for me. And allowing them to respond to that. And if they're not responding well to that, then you got to cut that out, because you got to put yourself first. And it really starts with that. It's like the evolution of people around you and being able to communicate your needs and them responding and making sure that they respond in a way that works for you, because it's not a selfish thing. It's just you trying to grow and be the best person for yourself and then for other people. Yeah.
And it's hard to, I guess I can relate to you when you're talking about loving everyone. As a kid, it's hard then to go into adulthood and go, I just can't do that. Yeah. And that's okay.
And it is okay. But it was like finding that love that I had way back then and feeling it again. So I did have to, it was a long road of misguided examples of love, meaning when I was in a situation and sexual abuse started, I started seeing love as a very different thing. And I didn't value myself. I would do whatever I thought to get a guy's attention and love. And I thought somehow that was filling what I needed. Yeah. I didn't know how to love. I didn't know how to receive love. And I didn't really know what love looked like. So that, when I admitted my alcoholism to my husband, he embraced me. And at that time, I hated my husband. And he hated me, basically. We're at a really, really bad place. But it was like when I just released everything, and it was like the weight of the world came off my shoulders when I finally spoke the truth. I need help and I'm an alcoholic, and he embraced me. And that's when, feeling that love around me really helped me.
Yeah, absolutely. You did something that really caught my eye with the book, was the way you laid out chapter 6 and 7, my first addiction, my second addiction. And for me, why it stood out was because we all seem substance abusers, addicts, whatever you want to call it, have something underlining the substance. It's not necessarily the substance. That's a small part of it, but it's a thinking problem that started before that. So why did you want to approach the book in that way of really making that clear to the reader that, hey, there's something prior to this? Because I know for me, it was molestation experience as a kid and very early exposure to pornography. And it brought a lot of inferiority complexes for me throughout my life that I still work on and have to every day.
Yeah. Just going to the porn, my stepfather would watch porn and exposed me a bit to it. And I've still not been able to ever look or even be close to porn because it's just, that's just one of those things. And I guess to me, listen, whatever, everybody has their own thing. But for me, I guess I'll use the word trigger. It just doesn't feel right. Right. Yeah. It led into something that was dirty. And I know it doesn't have to be, but for me, it was. But when that sexual abuse started, at first I moved into a victim mentality, right? And that's something that, it's a coping mechanism from the trauma, right? The alcohol, masked the pain. I escaped through alcohol. Then I became addicted to, I'll just say men and relationships, because I constantly needed to be in a relationship, but yet I also had a cycle of, trying to get in, falling in love really fast. And then everything would escalate really fast. There would be a lot of fighting and then became physical abuse. And then it was like me and my drinking would really escalate at that time. And then I'd go outside of the relationship to find what I wasn't getting in this relationship. So it was just a pattern. Yeah. Like I was constantly moving to the next person, trying to fill that void. And then work. I was never, I get antsy really fast. So I always had to move to another position. If I was, things started to deteriorate around me, I would move houses, or I'd move apartments, or I'd move roommates. I was just always changing. But another thing that happened to me in my very young years, my formative years, is that I was moving every 2 years. So whether it was my family moving me or I moving to school, was never any roots that were formed for me. So people were replaceable to me. I never knew how to connect at a real deep level with people. And that's why it also amazes me today through my healing. I love to talk to people. I love their stories, and it's all I want now. And what I'm doing, creating this foundation for my family. So just giving them what I didn't have. And I had to learn these things. Yeah.
And it shows that we absolutely can. I mean, you're not just a wife, you're not just a businesswoman but you're a mom too. And so you had to try to create this foundation for your own children.
Yeah, but I feel like all these things, like, me saying, prior addictions, whether it was moving situations or men, these are all ways that we learn to cope and try to manage these lives while we're broken.
Yeah.
And that's what I was. I was broken. And I thought a certain way that was not beneficial to myself or anyone around me, but it's all I knew. That's how I wired my brain to deal with what I did. And people ask me, well, how did you keep a job? And how did you keep rising up the ranks? And, finding, life always looked good. And, you were drinking every day. How did you do that? And I think I just built the strength. I built the walls, and I had to do it on my own. And I was going to do it. And I didn't care really who it hurt.
Sure.
And the bottom line is it was me that was hurting.
Yeah. Hurt people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you climb up through your career? I didn't work for too many different radio companies. Of course, I don't know about TV broadcasting, but radio is like par for the course. I remember my first programming director, hey, we're going to the lodge and, well, we got to get on air. Oh, no, it's fine. You can have 5 or 6 beers and then we'll get on air. It's like, really? It was part of the culture. It was insane.
Yeah. You know what? I started at a company called Liberty Sports Communications in operation. So we created the logs for networks. And I was actually brought on a contract basis. And I proved myself, even though, my God, I think about times like I go into work, I hadn't been sleeping. I probably reeked of alcohol. Like I was like this. I don't know at the time, and I'm putting in information into the computer, and these were the logs. This was what was being seen on TV. And here's this like young 20-something-year-old girl like that'd been partying every night. But I don't know. This morning I said to myself, I said, can you imagine I told my friend, can you imagine if I wasn't drinking, how well I would have done? Because it was like I was doing the job, and I always tried to learn. I always tried to do my best, all the while drinking. But I just managed to, I guess I always tried to learn outside of what I was doing. So it made me very, I guess, hireable, because I didn't know just one facet of the business. I would make sure that I knew the whole picture. Yeah. And so it enabled me to move to different departments within the company and continue to get promoted. So I guess that's what helped me.
Well, I think it's interesting because you talk about your childhood bouncing around a lot. And like you said, you were comfortable. Yeah. It's weird that would become an asset for your career. Maybe in reflection, realizing that I'm okay moving here, and here. And sometimes our survival skills of, new school, I got to put on a new hat to get along, whatever it is. How then, when you stopped the victim mentality, what were the first processes for you? Were you just a 12-step hit a meeting person? I know it's an issue, or did you go through a rehabilitation process too?
I did not go to rehab. I did go straight to the 12-step program, but the 12-step program didn't work for me at first because I knew that I had a drinking problem. It wasn't because every night I was drinking. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, have that same story. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not going to do it tomorrow. Do the same thing tomorrow, right? Yeah. I'd be looking up on the internet, like, what ways can I help myself? Is it acupuncture? Is it hypnosis? I was trying to think of anything that I could do to not continue on my drinking path. Well, I went to AA the 12-step program, because I figured that's where Google always took me. So I finally decided to go to some meetings, and I started comparing myself. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not waking up drinking. I'm not this. My life is good outside of the fact that, I'm drinking almost a bottle of wine a night and it's affecting my home life.
Sure.
So I convinced my husband I'm not an alcoholic, and I tapered my drinking. And then I started surrounding myself with people that drank more than me, so I didn't feel so bad, And then, I got in front of the camera, and I didn't get in front of the camera till I was almost 41 years old. So I always worked in the television business. I worked in operations. I went to programming, and then I went to, and my work took me to Denver and then LA. And then ultimately I ended up as the director of on-air promotions for the FX network.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I retired, had kids, into the married life, moved to New Jersey. And it was a few years after being in New Jersey and New York, not too far away, some things started happening in my life. And I was like, you know what? I want to go back after this lifelong dream of mine to be in front of the camera. And so things started happening for me, put it out in the universe. And I guess it was supposed to happen. It was laying the foundation for what's happening now. Yeah. Even though at that time it was one of my biggest struggles. So, I just started drinking my liquid courage, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And then boom, I proved myself really, really wrong. And the fact that I was an alcoholic. So with my rock bottom.
Yeah. It's interesting that you bring that up. The being around other people that drink more. See, it's that good comparison. See, I'm not as bad, or I don't know. For me, it was, I don't know if I'm an alcoholic. I'm not the wake up guy on vacation or whatever day to have a drink, but I was definitely the guy that's like, I only remember buying a 12 pack of beer. How did another 30 pack get here and it's almost empty? So
yeah, I never went to sleep, passed out, or anything like that. I mean, I was the mom that drank my wine at night. Mm-hmm. And I know that there's a lot of moms out there that can relate to this. I've also recognized now, a lot later in my healing journey, I'm 53 now. At that time, I started perimenopause. So this is also something that creates a lot of hormonal imbalance. And I started going through a lot of struggles emotionally and with depression at that time. And that was another reason I believe now that my drinking started really elevating. Drinking was a daily thing for me. I will never say that I ever had time off, really, because that's what I was raised in. Everybody always drank around me. So that was very normal to me. But, it was when people ask, well, when do you know if it's a bad habit or if it's really a problem? Well, it's really a problem when you sit there and say, you have this beautiful life around you, but you've created all these problems around you. And you think you want to run away from it because you think you'll have a better life outside of it. The grass is greener on the other side. But it's when you start looking at yourself that you recognize that it's a lot to do with you and what you've created around you.
Absolutely.
But you have so much control, really, of your circumstances in life. And I've learned that now.
Yeah, I think a lot of people believe that they are just a passenger on this thing, and this life we get, however long it goes, by the grace of God or whatever higher power you believe in. But it's not. We really can take control of the direction of our life without having a little bit too much of a destination asphyxiation, as opposed to, hey, except the journey's going to have some ebb and flows that may not go according to your plan.
Yeah, and you know what? Listen, alcoholism, these are diseases. So I do want to make sure that everyone knows that this is not a disease. It's not a choice. But if we do have the opportunity to, let's say we finally have put down that drink and we start going through the process of healing from the disease that we'll always have. But what it becomes is reframing, rewiring our brains, building that toolbox, and just really changing ourselves first. And then if we need to change the things around us, it's vital to do that for us to live a life and start the journey of joy that we're meant to live.
For my own curiosity, and I love picking people's habits, how do you start your day? Frame yourself up good, protect Marci from Marci, essentially.
Yeah.
We have to. Some of those demons sit out there still.
Meditation has been a really huge one for me. Mm-hmm. I have used meditation in a lot of ways. Now, I know some people have specific people that they listen to or things that they do. I've always gone to YouTube and just searched meditations that maybe will help me if I'm feeling down, or if I want to be uplifted, if I want to connect to God, if I wanted to connect to my spiritual angels. There's so many meditations out there that have really helped me. And I gave myself that gift every day in my healing. I also would nap a lot because I believe that if you have surgery or you have something where you're having to heal from, sleep is the primary way that you heal. I believe us healing from the inside out, we need to do the same for ourselves. And I've always given myself that opportunity to do that. When I wake up in the morning, I never grab my phone except for to turn on a YouTube meditation, or I found Abraham Hicks. She's been huge for me in my transforming and rewiring the way I think about things. And so I give myself that gift before I get out of bed. I actually do it through the night. A lot of times people say they don't have time to meditate. Well, stick one of these earbuds in and turn something on and listen to it through the night and start restructuring your subconscious. You don't have to, meditation becomes something that is easier. It's a muscle, just like working out, and we can just find it in quiet. So I sit down with my cup of coffee after I've done that. I sit down and I'm quiet. Mm-hmm. I take in the day a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. I'm very fortunate that right now I'm at the beach, so I look out over the ocean. But if I'm at home, I go outside, I listen to the birds, or I look outside. Nature is huge in our healing and recognizing that. So I do that. I get my body moving. It's really important to get your body moving. And I know when we're in these very depressed states, it's very hard to do that. But if you actually get yourself up, wash your face, maybe you have a little love fur baby there, and take your dog on a walk. And maybe it's only 5 to 10 minutes that first day. But today I go and I take my dogs on a 2-mile walk, and I listen to a podcast, Joe Dispenza, right?
Yep, he's great.
I just found him and started listening to him, and I just feel like I'm growing. Do something to grow every day and get curious about yourself and find out about yourself. And whether you're helping somebody else, you just got to help yourself first. And I think it's just evolution every day in some way is really important for your healing.
Absolutely. I tout that it's recovery isn't just getting anything back. It's also a discovery. You get to really dig into who and what you are. And I found it really silly. My first sponsor goes, "What did you love doing as a kid?" First thing I name is Legos. And then next thing I know in the mail is a Lego gift card. And now I have a new problem of, bookshelves full of Star Wars and race car Legos. But it helped me reconnect to that simple curiosity, getting busy. My girlfriend, it's funny, I'll be building some, "Are you okay?" And it's like, I am just focused. And there's that thing about that ability to jump into a place of focus that's not necessarily work. You're probably like me, like work. I love what I do. I dig right in, but I need something outside of that too that settles the mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And, maybe for you that is a little form of meditation for yourself. And, it's so funny when you think about, all my ideas come to me in the shower. Well, think about what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're taking your shower, you're able to quiet your mind a little bit. And then the ideas start pouring in. I mean, I don't know about you, but once I was able to start healing, and I opened up my mind more on a spiritual level. I mean, these 12-step programs are normally in churches, and I would go into this little chapel, and I would pray to this one little sheep, and I'd say, I want to, and then there was a stained glass window of Jesus. And I was like, if you help me through this, Jesus, I'll be your shepherd forever. And that's what life has become for me. And I just continue to grow in that spiritual space. But it's just, you learn to quiet your mind. And then that's when the downloads start coming. So that's why I'm saying, like, if you're in the shower, you're taking a walk, or, there's times that we allow our downloads to happen. And I started getting those downloads. And that's when I got the bug about doing a talk show. And I'm like, I've never done a talk show. I'm not a talk show host. Like, what are you talking about? And like, it just, that those nudges wouldn't go away. And I think it's so important that we listen to those, because those are really our guidance to the life we're supposed to live.
Absolutely. What really then kicked into you getting active about doing Waking Up with Marci?
So my first talk show was called Coffee with Marci.
Okay.
And that was a social media talk show. I was going to get in a studio, but this guy was all about money and everything. We just weren't seeing eye to eye. And that's when Facebook Live was becoming really popular. So maybe that was, 5.5, 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? I've got my first guest. I've got the idea. I know the intention, the mission of what I want to do. Why don't I just go on this Facebook Live and start interviewing? And that's what I did. And it just continued to grow. And it became a talk show about helping entrepreneurs and nonprofits in my community. Okay. I was about a year into that. And that was, also my healing journey. And I was like, wow, I'm starting to live this amazing life. I want to give more. So I want to give back more. And that's when I launched Wake Up with Marci. And I went on a network called U2 America, TOO, and I went national with this show. And it was about sharing stories of hardship and transformation to share hope. And that's where it's just evolved. And it's just been an amazing experience for me. And I'm really sorry my dog is barking. Sorry, I'm trying to ignore it, but it's really happening.
I know what that's like. Of course, the book Chaos to Clarity, Seeing the Signs and Breaking the Cycles. You seem to have a really great, wonderful approach. And again, I love that you broke this down into different parts, because it's not just really your story, but you did a good job of things within, trinkets that people can take for themselves. Was that a conscious thing when you first started, or did you just kind of find through it like, hey, I've got something and I've learned so many tools. Maybe somebody can extrapolate something from this for their own experience?
Yeah. So everything that I do is with the viewer or reader in mind, to be able to learn something, to take a tool, to take a resource, to connect in some way. Because at the end of the day, the only reason I want to do this is to help somebody to move towards a better life. And I know it's possible because I've done it. I mean, the accolades I've received, the things that I've been doing in my life and how it continues to happen, and the trajectory of what's happening for me. you would have asked me 7 years ago, I would have been like, I'm just trying to figure out where to go to lunch and have a glass of wine, my body in shape, right? So, I also, I have a lot of spiritual leaders that I go to, and I seek guidance through others. Mm-hmm. And I want others to be able to have guidance through me. And so that's pretty much what it comes down to.
All right. Well, Marci, before we get to some random questions and I leave you with the final thoughts, if people want to know more about the book, purchase the book, or watch Wake Up with Marci, how can they do that? Where can they connect with you at?
So my book is on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com, Goodreads.com, and also my website, wakeupwithmarci.com. And my show is in the tri-state area on WLNY-TV. It's a CBS-owned network, and it's Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. I did just launch in Palm Springs and Idaho Falls, so I'm super excited about that. So look for me there. Streaming, I'm on Fubio. I'm on NJ On Air, which is out of New Jersey, YouTube TV, and what else? There's one other streaming. If you just go on my website, wakeupwithmarci.com, it's all right there. As I said, it keeps evolving. I also stream on a podcast because I know sometimes it's hard to watch. So that's where you can find my book and my show. And, I'm just so grateful to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, Marci, some fun random questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Any pet peeves, things that irk you?
Making excuses. Covering your ass.
Yeah.
There's always a solution. Just own up to what's happened and let's move on. Figure out how to make it work.
It's funny because I was one of those people. You would have been really annoyed with me years ago, but I find just simply going, you know what? I messed up and I apologize. People are like, oh, cool. It's cool. You're human.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah.
If they were to make a movie about your book, who would you want to play you as an adult?
Nicole Kidman.
I could see that. I love it.
Like her.
You're stuck on a deserted island. You have one music album and one movie with you. What are they?
Oh, holy moly.
Yeah, I'm trying to throw some challenges here.
Oh, God. Well, anything by Adele.
Okay.
I love Adele. And movie, God, you give me any 90s movie, The Breakfast Club, Sweet 16 Candles. Like, I love anything with the Brat Pack. Yeah. Molly Ringwald rocked.
Yeah, she did. She really did. I loved her. And Jed Nelson, I still think that's one of in Breakfast Club, one of the greatest characters ever. It's such a talented guy. Yeah. If you could have one superpower, what would it be and why?
Just to help people get this. That's what I really, really want. I want people to just shed the darkness and let the light through for themselves. And if I can do that, then I have a superpower.
Marci, if you have any words that you would like to share with the listener, be it if they themselves struggling with addiction, maybe a mental health disorder or that of a loved one, what would you want to share?
It's not your fault. The past does not define you. Relapse is part of the struggle. Forgive yourself and just believe that healing and a better life awaits you.
Marci, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
This podcast contains the views and opinions of the Knockin Doorz Down hosts and their guests to the show. The content here should not be taken as medical advice. The content here is for informational purposes only. And because each person is sharing their unique perspective, please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions. Views and opinions expressed in the podcast and website are our own and do not represent that of our places of work. While we make every effort to ensure that the information we are sharing is accurate, we welcome any comments, suggestions, or correction of errors. Privacy is of the utmost importance to us. For those wishing anonymity, people, places, and scenarios mentioned in the podcast have been changed to protect confidentiality at the request of certain guests. This website or podcast should not be used in any legal capacity whatsoever, including but not limited to establishing standard of care in a legal sense or as a basis for expert witness testimony. No guarantee is given regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on the podcast or website. In no way does listening, reading, emailing, or interacting on social media with our content establish a doctor-patient relationship. If you find any errors in any of the content of this podcast or blogs, please send a message through the contact page. This podcast is owned by KDD Media Company.